Welcome to RetinUp. I'm Scott Chriswanis.
And I'm John Kitchens.
And John, we have a full VBS special for this week's episode. And our guest for our A block is Dr. Ross Lakhanpal. He's a founding member and a former president of the Vit-Buckle Society, which was established in 2006. He's also a retina specialist at the Retina Care Center in Maryland. Ross, welcome to RetinUp.
Thank you very much, Scott, and my good buddy, John. Actually, I've known Scott a long time, too, so thank you guys for the invitation. Really appreciate it.
Fantastic. You know, Ross, it's great to have you on. And Scott, you mentioned he's a founding member. There's a handful of us that are considered founding members, but I'll have to say, Ross is a founding member. Like there were a small handful of people who actually originated the idea for VBS and then kind of invited the rest of us to come along for the ride early on. Ross, tell us about the origins of VBS.
Yeah, so, we founded it in 2006, but the ideas sort of started closer to when we were starting our fellowships in 2004. Tom Albini and I were fortunate enough to be co-fellows, and we had sort of talked at times about how surgery was sort of falling off in terms of surgical presentations, surgical results, because this was a time that, it's hard to think about now, but there was a time without intravitreal injections. But then they all came, Avast and Lucentis. And so we were doing a lot of meetings where it was predominantly medical retina, which is fine. But the surgical retina sort of curriculum had really fallen off. And as fellows, we sort of felt like that was a shame. So our idea was, initially in 2004, then getting closer to Fellows Forum, we had this idea that, what if we just did a dinner meeting or something, to enhance surgery as the platform. And so we don't lose our ability as retina surgeons. Of course, being a retina specialist, medical and surgical retina are both important, but we felt like there needed to be more of an emphasis on surgical retina, and it was sort of falling off. So it was actually at the Fellows Forum in 2006, which was just happened, of course. It's in January every year. It's probably the best meeting for fellows. And Tom and I were talking to two great friends of ours, Charlie Mango and Paul Chan, who had been co-residents. They didn't go to the same fellowship, but they were co-residents. And we were just literally in a bar, scribbling on a napkin. What do we want to do? Let's do something different, because these meetings are great, but they're so medically oriented. And also, fellows have so little input in some ways. We don't see fellows presentations. We don't see surgical stuff. What if we did a meeting where we did predominantly surgical stuff and invited, people like us, young fellows who had ideas that are maybe a little bit different, outside the box thinking. And, John, of course, fit right in when we told him the idea, because John is one of the best out of box thinkers in the generation, to be honest. So that's sort of how the idea came about. We thought about it, and, we sort of let it go for a while. And then, the dinner meetings became the first real place where VBS really began. And John was at the first ever, I guess, real VBS meeting, which was at ASRS 2006 in Palm Springs, California. And we had actually a really decent turnout. We just word of mouth, put out some invitations. Hey, we're doing a dinner meeting. It's sponsored by Bausch and Lomb. We would love for you guys to come. It's just surgical. We had a projector and one of those, it was really old school. But John, I think, will tell you it was fun. We got great feedback, and it became sort of an impetus that, okay, there is an interest for this. Maybe it's just a one-off, but I think we need to try to do something with this platform. And so from there, it sort of became, we would piggyback on other meetings, Academy, ASRS, ARVO, whatever. We would just do a dinner, and our goal was, we want to hang out with our friends. We want to have a good dinner, good conversation, and have somebody else pay for it. That was the initial mission statement.
So how do you get someone else to pay for it? I mean, do you just approach Bausch and Lomb and say, hey, me and 19 of my closest friends want some wine and steak?
We were desperate fellows, right? We're desperate fellows. So we were just walking around at meetings, and we'd walk around in packs, I guess. It's sort of funny now, like Tom and myself and Mango and Paul Chan, and I think John may have been involved at that point, or Andrew Mashfegi. And these are the sort of the beginning people who helped us to put the word out. And I think even though we weren't that well known, of course, at that time, people could see that we're a good a fairly cohesive group that did represent probably some of the better fellows in the country. So I think they saw it as an opportunity. Look, pharmaceutical companies look at us as fellows and they see an opportunity. These are people we can partner with down the road. And of course, what do they have to lose? They do a dinner, doesn't work. Okay, nothing really lost. On the other hand, if it works, it could be a long-term partnership. And so that's the way we sort of phrased it, very low key. And we were able to get people to help. And the other thing I should say, which was really critically important, is we had an amazing mentor, and I want to give him a special shout out. So Tim Murray was our first ever mentor for VBS. And honestly, I don't know why he did it, because we really didn't have much of an idea what we were doing, but he saw something in us and he really did work with us with pharma and other things, venues, made sure that he put his stamp on it. And I have to tell you, when you're a young organization that doesn't really have direction, having a mentor like that. And then Harry Flynn, of course, too. I mean, look, Harry has been amazing for us for 20 years. These are just some of the attendings that were really, really instrumental. Don D'Amico. And so when you have mentors like this and you're a fellow or you're just coming out of fellowship, it really means a lot that they're believing in you and buying into your message. Even if it doesn't work, it's okay. And we had believe it or not, very low expectations of this. This was not like, we're going to do dinner meeting, we're going to have a drink, we're going to talk about surgery, and we're going to hang out. And honestly, if it had only been that, I would have been thrilled, and everybody that started the organization would have been thrilled. It became much bigger than we would have ever expected.
Yeah, it was really amazing to have that energy. We were hand to mouth, man. I mean, it was back in the day, it was just whatever money we could raise would go complete and entirely into the meeting. And sometimes we'd be over budget and we'd have to find ways. Shout out to Bausch and Lomb, who
Mhm.
early on had the first advisory board with us, sponsored the first dinner. And then Mike Lee and Janet Burke from Alcon really, Scott kind of picked up the ball from there and really helped us take it to the next level, at least on that dinner side of things. They were very, very supportive.
I'm not
Yeah,
surprised by
Janet.
that. Yeah, I feel like Janet and Mike they've been 2 mentors for me, and they're somebody that have always it feels like they can see a double A baseball player in a major league situation. They've always had that foresight.
Yeah, totally.
Ross, how do you move from dinner meeting to meeting? Like, what was the first VBS meeting that wasn't a remora on a shark like you were originally doing, just following these other meetings around? How do you secure funding for that? A space? How do you get the word out? How do you know it's not gonna fail? How do you make an agenda?
Yeah. Well, I think we were very comfortable with the dinner meetings, and then they started to become, bigger and bigger. And we did one I remember very clearly. It was in New York, and it was there were so many people who wanted to attend that we actually had to say, we literally don't have enough room. And this was we actually had a sizable area in a restaurant, which we had the entire floor. And I think we had, if I remember, we have a photo of it because it was unique. It was probably about 75 attendees, which you have to understand, for a dinner, 75 attendees is a lot
Mhm.
as part of another meeting. We then started talking to, again, industry. Can't do anything without industry. So industry was like, okay, what's interesting, the story is really Nicole Sheeler for this. So Tom and I were both in Rome for the Retina Society meeting, and I don't remember the exact year, but it was the Rome meeting. There was beautiful, and we loved Nicole, and we had a great relationship with Nicole, and so we wanted to ask her, like, okay, where are we with VBS? Is this something that's viable? And so she's like, okay, so let's do this. Let's meet. And I want you to put together a plan. Okay. And I want you to give me that plan. We're going to discuss it. And she's like, this is for real. This is not just, and we said, yeah, it's for real. So we went there, we met her. And to my embarrassment, our plan was so mediocre or less than mediocre that she basically looked at it and kind of laughed a little bit. Like, this is your plan? Just invite people and drink with them. And she's like, you don't have anything else going on here? Like, and so, she really, I have to say, it was a great meeting because she really made us feel really small. And I think that was really good, because I think it was a wake up call that, look, we're playing in the big leagues now. If you want to do this, you got to man up or woman up, and you have to have more than just this same old plan. You have to have some vision of what you're seeing going forward. And so, then we came up with other ideas, fellows foray, surgical debates, medical debates. But at this point, we're also like, okay, we need to have medical retina involved because medical retina has so much involvement in retina that we can't ignore that. And also, they have the funding. So, so a lot of stuff came into play here with that meeting with Nicole, including more medical retina stuff, debate format, which of course now everybody does, but we were the first to do it. Potentially live surgery, which of course we were the first to do it in the United States, and now everybody else does it. So we had all these ideas then, and we came back to her, and she goes, "Okay, now this is actually something that I can actually work with." And so, it took a couple of years. I mean, we really had to do a lot of work with her and other people to gauge the interest. So we went through the ASRS checklist of people and really kind of asked as many people as possible, is this something you would attend? I mean, be real and tell us honestly. I'm not going to lie. The first meeting it went well, but it was a bit of a disaster. We didn't really know what we were doing. It was not very well organized by us. I mean,
Mhm.
I think people gave us a pass, to be honest, because they were like, okay, it was in Miami. It was at the Fountain Blue. I think we picked really well for the venue, but I think we realized, okay, we have the interest, we need to hone the message and do a better job. So it took a few years after the Nicole Sheeler meeting, which I will highlight as probably the sole reason why we were able to do standalone meetings. I think before that, we would not have been able to do it, or it would have failed miserably. The other thing I do want to give a big shout out to is medical conference planners, Karen Brannick. So
Okay.
just a
She's a pro.
segue of the meeting. Yeah. So Karen, it's interesting because I had met Karen during the Fellows Forum in 2006 because she runs that meeting. MCPI runs that meeting. And we had talked for a long time about, is this even is something we should do? And she was actually really open to the idea, but said, obviously once you get further along. So we went and circled back with her. And honestly, the group of MCPI has been so collaborative with us, and I owe them a lot of credit. And they were great during our early years. They're great now, very supportive, and also adds a certain amount of legitimacy to our meeting because they do all of the great retina meetings. They do ARDS, they do Fellows Forum. They were involved with ASRS, et cetera. So to have them backing us as well was a huge thing as well.
So, John, you mentioned renting out a nightclub in Miami Beach for your first meeting. I mean, this speaks to the fact that VBS, among other things, is fun. It sounds like it was fun to begin with, and it continues to be fun. Did you guys ever get pushback? Has anyone ever said, like, this is too much fun, or we have to stop having costume parties, or has everyone really embraced it?
So I would say this. I think there was a little bit of pushback, and sometimes we probably needed a little bit of pushback for some of the costumes. So, they were a little bit crazy in the beginning. I still remember Tom in the bunny outfit. John, you remember that.
Yeah.
And Vegas. I think that was the second meeting. I think it was Harry one time said, Harry Flynn was sort of like, I think it's good what you're doing, but we need a little editing, basically, is what he said with he's like, you got to be a little careful. Some people may cross the line. And I think when Harry Flynn says that to you, I think you pay attention. So I think, like with everything, we made some, I wouldn't say mistakes, but we kind of pushed the envelope. That is the message of VBS, by the way, push the envelope. But when we got a little pushback, we did pay attention to it. But I do think, yeah, sometimes. So you get a little pushback and then you edit, but the message is still the same, which is the meeting is fun, it's collaborative, great science, great program, and young people, young energy.
Scott, one of the things that VBS has always been about too from the beginning is handing this thing off to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next generation. And that was always something we had talked about, but boy, it gets hard to do when you have a really successful meeting. But you know what? We stuck to it and handed it off to the next generation. And man, have they taken and run with that baton. Ross, what are your thoughts on what this generation is doing with VBS now?
Yeah, so, this was the best decision, and it was actually a controversial decision. We had, the core 10 of us who ran the meeting for the first 10 years. John, of course, was included in that. There's always a bit of a difficult time when you start something and it's so successful to hand it to someone else and then be on the sideline. But I'm so glad we did that because of that is why we have the buy-in from this younger group. And, Aleksandra Ratchitskaya, just as an example, because she's president, she's the first president who is not a member of those 10 original people. So, I remember when Alexandra was coming up, and I thought, she's going to be perfect for this. And you just never know how people are going to respond to the responsibility. And they have done such an amazing job, and they have made it their own. This is the best part. It has become their meeting now. Our 10 core 10 people, we had our own message. We did a great job, I feel like. But these guys have done a great job in their own way. They have not just taken the baton. They have actually, I think, elevated the meeting. They've made it better. And I honestly would not have thought that. I really was sort of like, okay, if we can just keep it the same, that would be amazing. We just don't want to let down. They've done a better job than we did in some of the messaging. They've done a better job on the social media side. They've done a better job during the year of having sort of surgical rounds, literature review, all this stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff, which is really fantastic, and they're keeping industry very happy. And I think they're keeping the core VBS people, involved. And I think they've done a amazing job, and I can't give them any more props than that. So Alexandra is doing a great job, and the other great thing about them is they get along. Again, the other X factor, as you know, in any organization, when you pass this on to another group, you hope that they're going to get along. Because if they don't get along, the whole thing falls apart. And the best thing is they're friends, just like we're friends. Like we've been friends for 20 years, all the 10 of us. We're still so close. We're on text threads. We talk all the time, mostly about nonsense, but sometimes about science and retina. But the point is, we're still good friends, excellent friends, best friends. And these guys are great friends too. And I think that's something that is unexpected and wonderful, because they're working so well together, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make the organization successful. We've got a great succession plan. There's no arguing about it. There's a vote. People vote, and Alexandra is going to be is president now. And then we've got Yoshi and Mernali, who have done so much work with the educational material. So these guys have all put in a lot of time and effort. I mean, and they deserve to be where they are. It would be a shame for us as the core 10 people to just say, okay, you guys have done a good job. You can still be, head of this committee or whatever, but giving them the role of responsibility was what was the best thing we did. And I'm very proud of them, and I'm proud to call them our friends and colleagues.
So after the break, we're actually going to speak with Aleksandra Ratchitskaya about the agenda for the 2026 meeting, but she's not going to talk to us necessarily about what some of the fun activities are at the 2026 meeting. Can you give us a little preview on what this new batch of leadership has planned as far as social events and themes and keeping VBS?
Sure. So, we always have a theme, and for 10 years, it was always Nina Barakal. Nina Barakal deserves a shout out for this, because she and John are probably the two most creative people of our core 10. If I had to say, I think they've got amazing creativity and ideas that nobody else thinks of. So for the first 10 years, Nina was pretty much in charge of the themes, and now we've transferred it, to the younger group. Hong Ween is doing a lot of that work now, which is perfect, because she's extremely creative and has a lot of great ideas. And I think their group is doing a great job. So the theme this year, which we're very excited about, is an Alice in Wonderland theme. And I think the first night is a sort of an Alice in Wonderland, VBS in Wonderland type theme. And I think if you're a VBS supporter, you've probably seen some of the stuff that's out on social media. And by the way, our social media guys, fantastic job. I was actually in charge of social media when we first were getting started. We all had different jobs. We all had multiple jobs. But these guys are doing with the social media is far above what I was doing, and I think that's great. So VBS in Wonderland is the theme of the Friday night. The Saturday night is a tea party, which you can use your imagination and do
It'll be
whatever
a
you
mad tea
want with a
party.
tea party. A mad tea
A
party.
mad tea
Yeah.
party, right.
Yeah, yeah. So we can do whatever you want. A Mad Hatter tea party, whatever you want to do with it. Yeah. We're excited.
Well, I tell you what, Ross, it's going to be a great meeting. It's always great to see you. Ross, thank you for joining us on RetinUp.
Well, guys, thank you so much. As I said, it's my favorite subject. Always puts a smile on my face. So thank you for the opportunity, and go VBS.
All right, listeners, stick with us. On the other side of the break, we're going to speak with Aleksandra Ratchitskaya about what's on the agenda for the 2026 VBS meeting.
Support for this program is brought to you by Genentech, maker of Vabysmo faricimab SVOA. Want to hear from leading experts on their real-world experience? Search and follow Vabysmo on LinkedIn. That's VABYSMO.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We're here with Aleksandra Ratchitskaya. She is the current president of the Vit-Buckle Society. The meeting this year is kicking off on Thursday, April 9th. Aleksandra, welcome to RetinUp.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here.
So, Alexandra, looks like a great agenda. Vit-Buckle Society is always such a fun, I'm going to say quirky meeting, but it is just such a fun and different meeting. It's always had this different vibe to it that really sets it apart. What are some of the things that you're really looking forward to in this year's meeting? Some of the things that are going to be different and fun and interesting?
So, John, as you mentioned, VBS is truly, in my mind, a special meeting. And it's a special meeting because it combines so many parts. First, it really is, developed as the meeting for young retina specialists, but it has grown way beyond that. And maybe we'll touch in this interview, but there's sections for people who are literally in training from medical school to residency to fellowship. We also have something called VBS Silver. Some people opposed to the name of this, but it's for people who've been in practice longer. And of course, we have kind of the main meeting that is still geared to folks in early to mid-career.
Let's start with the young and the old, the alpha and the omega, I guess.
You said it, I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. That starts on Thursday with a fellows program, pretty much all day Thursday, and then you bring in the old timers for VBS Silver. I'd love to hear about the fellows program, but just a shout out to Tom Albini, who was kind of the originator of the idea of having the VBS Silver for some of the older members to come in and actually give really fun and entertaining talks. We did it last year for the first time in Austin. It's absolutely great. Definitely want to attend that. But tell us what the fellows are going to be up to.
So I totally agree with you, actually, when we probably should touch upon VBS Silver, but I stopped by that session as well, and I learned a ton. So, these sessions, they have like their four particular people, but I find every time I go to any of those sessions, I find something interesting. So, Thursday didn't used to be kind of the big meeting day, but as we realized there's need for programming for our trainees, we really built up Thursday. So we have the fellows and also fostering careers for upcoming STARS programs. They start together and then they kind of separate to address a variety of topics. And it's really not necessarily only scientific, but looking at finances, looking at advocacy, really diving deep into the topics that I think are so important to practice of retina, but maybe not just the science, behind it. And then, of course, we have our flagship event, the Fellows Foray, where the fellows from around the world submit videos and compete for a chance to present on stage. And so that's another very exciting event that happens in the evening on Thursday. And in between, we do have, we're trying to use all the time we've got with everybody who comes to our meetings, and we have the Silver program.
And the fellows program's available for regular members too. It's not just isolated to fellows.
Yes, it's definitely open to anybody who is interested.
And VBS always has some all-stars that show up to the meeting, and sometimes they come to accept awards. There are a couple of awards being handed out this year. Who's receiving them?
So we have a great group of people who we're honoring this year. We actually have 2 Lifetime Achievement Award winners, and that's because of the fact that one of them couldn't travel last year. So we are very excited to have both Emily Chu join us from Bethesda, as well as a person who is well known to anybody who's been VBS, who shares his surgical cases and participates in discussion very actively, is Virgilio Morales from Mexico. And then we also always honor we have an awardee for a mentorship award, and this year it's going to be Adrian Scott Obviously, all extremely well deserved, and I'm very much looking forward to their presentations because I think there's so many pearls that they can share with all of us.
And VBS has a wellness committee, right? There's a whole section on wellness this year. What is that going to comprise?
So the wellness has been such a big part. I think the way the VBS, like I mentioned, if you look at the program, you realize that we're all about surgery and medical retina, but there's all these topics that kind of go through the whole program, starting with Thursday, starting with that trainee program, and that's focusing on such things as running a practice, very different aspects of practice management, advocacy, and wellness. And the wellness program, I think, has always been kind of a unique thing. We're gonna learn about it. Right now, it has a title from Alice in Wonderland, which is the theme for VBS this year, and it's going to be a panel with. And I will tell you, it's always a discussion of the most. I think people are very honest and discuss the topics that all of us can that resonate with all of us.
And keeping with the lively aspects of VBS, debates are always part of it. We've had live surgery in the past. What's that kind of can't miss session this year that's going to be a little bit outside the box, maybe a little controversial, but definitely entertaining?
So I don't have a favorite session, honestly, because I like it all because I think it addresses things in a different way. I really enjoyed the surgical discussions. VBS is not about showing you best case where, everything looks perfect and nobody can reproduce that. It's really about sharing complex cases and honest surgical cases and complications. Heard so many times people come in from VBS meeting and saying, hey, I saw this at VBS. Somebody struggled with something. They found this solution. I'm going to try it in my operating room. So I love the surgical aspect of it. And we also, as you alluded to, we have debates. So the debates mostly focus on medical topics, but also if you look, we have some surgical topics, always a good debate about how to approach a retinal detachment. It's a never ending debate. And we, John, you and I can probably start it right here and talk for another hour. But I love some of the other debates. There's some controversial topics. We'll hear something on photobiomodulation and also different debates, like totally different. For instance, should we be compensated for doing peer reviews, which we all do so many of, and kind of the discussion on that. So once again, kind of spanning VBS is, there's scientific content, but really spanning what it means to be a retina specialist in US today and probably internationally.
And Ross hit on these, but wouldn't be VBS if there weren't a lot of great social events with VBS. What are some of the things that we can expect at VBS from a social standpoint?
So VBS always has a theme, and it's funny because I'm not a big costume person in real life, but if you don't wear a costume to VBS, you'll stand out. So it's not like if you wear a costume, you'll stand out. It's the opposite.
But
And
just to the social events, like not to the meeting
well,
itself.
no,
You can come
it's.
dressed
I think it's
normal.
welcomed. You're welcome. I've had people wear it to their presentations, and you would look. You'll fit right
Last
in.
year,
So
Austin, we had everybody dressed like cowboys for the whole thing. It was really charming and awesome.
exactly.
I came dressed as Dr. Evil one year, sat in the audience, and felt just fine.
Yeah.
You guys get the vibe of VBS. So this year it's Alice in Wonderland, so a lot of good options, and we'll see how many Alices we're gonna have. But there's social events after the Fellows Fair. We have a little reception after that. So it's really nice because these fellows, I've been doing this for some years now, and I was in charge of Fellows for a while back, and it's so cool to see these fellows who presented their cases now coming as faculty, and kind of they've grown together with the society. So it's really neat. And then we have our reception on Friday that is Alice themed, and then we have a tea party reception and the closing dinner on Saturday with some award winners. So also kind of not to miss event.
Will the Mother Puckers be playing their 5-song set again this year, or are they not
Come
attending?
and see, but the
Okay.
rumor has it that they're coming. So I have to go. I have to go as a groupie because my husband is in in the
Of
band.
course. So when you were talking about the wellness committees and about the debates, you mentioned that VBS is very honest. And I always think of VBS as a safe space for honesty, right? Here is the surgical mistake I made. Here is something I'm not sure of. Here's where I'm uncertain and I need guidance from my peers. Can you talk about the honesty at VBS and why it sets the meeting apart?
Well, I think what we think about is, who is our membership and who do we want to reach, right? And there's there's wonderful meetings in Retina, but they're so focused on scientific aspect of it, and it's very important. But VBS really comes in and I think really looks at your experience in life as a retina specialist, both medical and surgical. And just give you examples. We've had conversations about topics that you would never hear on stage anywhere else, topics dealing with family and challenging situations that might arise, to any of us. And I think that it's really an essence of VBS. Approach it as a whole thing. And I've met so many people over the years who really have appreciated that part of the society. And I'll just give a shout out to people who making it all happen. We have obviously the program committee. We have wonderful people there, Yoshi, Avni, Basil, Jay, Jordan Dinner. But so many people are so enthusiastic about the meeting and pour so much into the society. It's really, really impressive to see.
It always has been such a wonderful, safe space and such a creative space. Aleksandra, if people can't attend, is there a way that they can access some of these talks online or be able to watch VBS afterwards?
So there's not a online version of the meeting because I think you really have to have that feeling of being there, and we really encourage active participations. People get up and ask the most pertinent questions, and like I said, it's a safe space to do that. We have a lot of online content for people who want to get a feel for VBS. We have webinars, both medical and surgical webinars. We have a lot of educational content on Vit-Buckle Academy, VBA website. So there's all of that. But I would truly, if you've never been to VBS, please come and experience it for yourself. And of course, we're very excited to welcome back all the folks who are great VBS supporters.
And if you can't make it this year, where's it going to be at next year, and when is it going to be?
So we'll announce the date at the meeting, but it's going to most likely be in Miami next year. So we're alternating Vegas, Miami.
And do we have a theme yet? When does the theme come out?
Not yet.
Okay.
Stay tuned. So we need to see all your Alice in Wonderland costumes first.
All right. Well, we are super excited for the meeting. Dr. Aleksandra Ratchitskaya is the current VBS president, and she will be the Queen of Hearts at this year's meeting, which kicks off April 9th. Aleksandra, thanks for coming on RetinUp.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Great to talk to both of you.
RetinUp is an editorially independent podcast supported with advertising. Laura Brown is our production and marketing lead, and Liz Hogan is the head of business development. If you're interested in advertising on RetinUp, have a question for the mailbag, or just have a topic you'd like us to cover, send an email to info@retinup.com. Follow us on LinkedIn and visit retinup.com to sign up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode. Like and subscribe to the show whether you're on YouTube or a podcast streamer. Leave us a review if you're feeling generous. And if you like the show or if you found this episode useful, pass it along to a colleague. That really helps us expand our audience. We'll be back next time with a fresh perspective on what's happening in retina.